In a bin, there's a way, there's a past and a future. And there's a story about a land cherishing its treasures to make the seeds of tomorrow. In a bin, there's a community made of men and women who want to write their own stories and lead their own future. The Coffeeprint of tomorrow.
Every single day, 2.25 billion cups of coffee are consumed around the world. Think about that for a moment. 2.25 billion. Coffee is more than a drink. It's a global ritual, a shared language, a lifeline for millions of coffee farmers. And yet, behind every cup, there is a story of farmers, of community, of resilience, and also a story of challenges for which we are committed through the project of the Lavazza Foundation.
Welcome, everyone. Today is not just an event, it's a continuation of a journey. A journey that began last year, when we celebrated the 20th anniversary of the Lavazza Foundation. Many of you were there, some in person, others connected from across the globe. We welcomed coffee voices from different countries, different cultures, and what we discovered was powerful. When we share ideas, we create impact. And that's why we are here again, because this story is far from over.
And what a story it is! Lavazza Foundation works in more than 20 countries and runs 30 sustainable development projects, collaborating with over 130,000 coffee producers every single year. For more than 2 decades, we have stood side by side with local communities, building partnership that matters, built on trust and shared purpose, because coffee is more than a drink.
Our mission is bold: to create economic and social value for coffee-growing communities. We want farmers to be more than farmers. We want them to become entrepreneurs. We want women to have their work recognized and valued. And we want young people to see coffee not as a struggle, but as an opportunity, a future worth investing in.
That's why the name we choose for our annual event is the Coffeeprint of Tomorrow. Last year, we explored the human side of this history, the stories, the resilience, and the social role coffee plays for communities.
This year, we want to explore an even higher aspect. What is the value of coffee? And how is it shared among the millions of stakeholders involved?
This morning, you will hear from the people shaping that future: producers, traders, institutional entities, innovators, voices from academia who study this industry and the value it creates.
But let's start. Guiding us through today's conversation is someone who embodies professionalism, passion, and curiosity. She was with us last year, and we must have her today with us again.
Please join us in welcoming Mariangela Pira.
In a beer, there's a way, there's a past, and a future. There's a story about a lamb cherishing his treasures to make the seeds of tomorrow.
What an introduction, you two guys. I didn't know anything about this introduction. So thank you so much also this year for being with us. This room is literally full of people who want to know more about the coffee sector and how we can bring value to this sector. So we're going to have today a lot of companies, the perspective of institutions telling us what's happening today. Let me introduce our first guest. We are really honored to have her today because from her perspective, we can really know what's happening in this moment. So I'm going to call up on the stage Vanusia Nogueira, Executive Director of International Coffee Organization.
In a beer, there's a way, there's a past, and a future. There's a story.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks, Lavazza team and Lavazza Foundation team to invite me to be here. It's an honor for me to be here.
Yeah, for me as well, I have to say. And also, you know, the scenery they have built for us today is just amazing.
Amazing, exactly.
Yeah. It's fantastic, I have to say.
And I can say to you, and I can say to all of us,
please.
All of the people here, that this is my first time in Turin. And I'm very, very impressed with the city and the hospitality of the people here.
I love it. I think it's one of the most beautiful cities we have. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, so price volatility, climate pressures, change also in consumers' patterns. It's a big deal to talk about coffee today. From your perspective of ICEO, of course, how do you contribute to the development of the coffee sector today?
Okay. Well, the ICO, it's the International Coffee Organization. We are talking about an intergovernmental organization that was created 63 years ago. In the moment that we were talking and the market was thinking about the regulation of this market. For 3 decades, we have coffee as the coffee trade as a regulated market worldwide. And then in the beginning of the 90s, this became a free market for coffee. So the ICO needed to change a little bit their its goals and its purpose. But since the beginning, since the first international coffee agreement, that it's a kind of bylaws that we have for this kind of organizations, since the first one, we are talking about economic sustainability and social sustainability. And from 94, we started to talk also about environmental sustainability in our agreements, in our international coffee agreements. So in our days, we have partnership with many of companies from the private sector, like Lavazza. It's a strong friend, a strong partner of the ICO in our days, and also with the civil society, because in a deregulated market, in a free market, we need to be together, the public and the private. And so I can say to you that the ICO in our days, it's a kind of a facilitator, or we are a kind of bridge to put the players together to find, to look for solutions for our producers and for our value chain in general.
Interesting. So the role you would say is the one of being a facilitator, which is interesting, putting together people in order to solve problems. What about the coffee market, Venusia? What are the trends you are seeing in this moment, your overview?
Well, this is very difficult. We can say that at this moment we have a lot of emotion in our market. We got the highest prices of coffee last February. It's not the highest price that we already have in the history. If we updated the prices from these 60 years that we have all the data, you see that the highest prices were during the 70s when we had the Black Frost in Brazil.
Yeah.
At that moment, the price, if we update that prices to today, we will talk about around almost 5 times the prices we got now in February. In February of this year. We are facing at this moment a lot of volatility with this geopolitical situation that we are involved in that. But more than that, because of our balance between supply and demand. Since 2021, we are having many different, very strong weather events in the major countries, many coffee-producing countries. Brazil, Vietnam, Colombia, some countries in Africa, also in Central America, different weather events, but that are influencing the supply that we have. And on the other hand, we have the consumption. That we can say that it's a little bit stable in the mature markets. That means Germany, here in Italy, in US, but it's increasing considerably in Asia, in Mid East, and also in Africa.
Interesting.
So we are still with this balance that brings us to a very short storage. And then you have this level of volatility, and the prices are going higher, and then yesterday was down, and we are on that for this period right now. We are all expecting what we will have as the weathers, because all of these, part of this is reflective of the climate change. We are already feeling that in the field. And we are expecting to see how big and how good will be the crops for next year.
Okay.
And then to see if we can have a little bit more stability in this market.
Okay, so you are expecting to see that, right? What's going to happen next year? I know it may sound as a difficult question, but if I would ask you, what is the real value of coffee? What would you answer to me?
Okay. What I can say to you, we have coffee. I think the first value that we have for coffee is that we have around 25 million farms in the world. That involves
25 million
25 million
farms.
farms. That is involving around 125 million people in the world that it's living mainly because of coffee. They have coffee as the major source of income. I think this is the first value that we have. We have coffees, the coffee is being produced right now in around 80 different countries. Some of them with a commercial production, some of them just some experimental areas, but we are talking about 80 countries, different countries. And we also can see that the retailing distribution of coffee, the retail distribution of coffee, they are estimating the value that we have in nowadays around $200 billion per year. We are talking about more than 3 billion cups of coffee per day worldwide. So we have very huge numbers, and the exports of green coffee during the last years, we finished last year that we just finished now with almost $50 billion of exports, the trade of green beans worldwide. This means more than the double that we had 15 years ago.
Wow.
Okay, and this is mainly because of the prices, the new prices that we are having right now, more related to that than related to the increase of the huge increase of production. We don't have a huge increase of production, mainly because of the problems I just mentioned because of the weather.
I have like 5-6 minutes left. Another question I'd like to ask you. We are here at Lavazza. What kind of relationship do you have?
We are really partners in many different things. I'm saying that right there. And Lavazza, it's one of the key players of our Coffee Public and Private Task Force that are initiatives that we are looking for ways and alternatives to have better solutions, mainly for the prosperity and good living income for our producers, but also to add value to all the value chain. One key example that we have that for me it's a very good example, it was the building of our coffee circular economy, C4SEC. It's a coffee for Center for Circular Economy, yes, Center for Coffee Circular Economy, that we launched together this book last year. Okay, this is a reference for a circular economy in coffee. We are talking about coffee always, and we launched this idea 2 years ago when we were in Bangalore, India. And yesterday we remembered that at that moment we were 6 members. Now we are 10 times bigger than that, almost 11 times bigger than that. We already have almost 70 members from 29 countries. This means that we are really, and we have this in partnership with Lavazza Foundation, and with the purpose to share the experiences that we have for circularity in coffee, and how this circularity can be good for the environment. But additionally to that, to diversify the sources of income for the producers.
In fact, about this thing, we are going to talk also in one of the panel, how to
Yes.
diversify
Exactly.
incomes.
And this, it's a very good example when we are doing this together. We are founders of the C4SAC, and we are together on that. Additionally to that, we have other projects that we are working together, mainly in Africa, for the social perspective, as Veronica just said about the social sustainability and the social perspective that we have worldwide. So we are working together in some countries to look for ways to improve the lives of the families, the women, and the young people there.
What perspectives do you see for the future based on what you are seeing and observing in this moment?
What I see is that we need to think about the new generations. We need to think now not only about the Generation Z generation, but also to start to think about the Alpha generation. They have a very different mindset.
Yes, totally.
They have other values, they have other principles, and we need to understand these boys and girls, because the future will belong with them, to them. And we need to understand how and why they will consume coffee, and also how and why they would like to be in contact with the coffee plantations, the coffee production. They need to be proud of that, the sons and daughters of the producers, the current producers. They need to be proud of to be on that, to be on this business, to keep their plantations, their coffee plantations in many parts of the world. This means that we need to learn a lot about technology, and we need to innovate a lot to get the attention of these new people and to move and to be close to them, to keep increasing the consumption and the coffee market worldwide.
Okay, thank you so much for this, and for coming here in Turin, and for introducing our morning today. Thank you so much, Venusia. Really.
Thank you.
Interesting to talk to you. See you later. Allora, I was talking in Italian, sorry. Okay, you have seen some graphics here, Davide. If we can see something else again, Davide Jucker, our director, because we have Paolo Masiero over there, who is gonna draw something for kind of each moment we will have here on the stage. And I have to say, Paolo, I know you from before, but I have to say this is marvelous. Thank you so much. You are crafting everything very well. A round of applause for Paolo. Because we have two stages, which is beautiful, I think. The reality is that Carolina wanted me to see falling down. So let's see if in the morning, I come out alive from... right, Carolina? Okay, the first panel of today is about unlocking opportunities in the coffee sector, which is, I think, really interesting. So I want to invite here my guests. Mariana Lima Veloso, Quality Director, Veloso Coffee. Please, Mariana, just next to me. Osvaldo Zucchino, Coffee Producer, Founder, Director, Il Gigante Coffee Estate.
there's a community made of men and women who wanna write their own
Osvaldo
stories
here.
and lead their own future.
Eduardo Esteve, CEO of the Coffee Division Ecom Agroindustrial Corp.
The coffee print of tomorrow.
Isabel van Bemmelen, Senior Business Developer, Rabobank, Acorn WRR Innovation. Thank you, Isabel.
That thrive through it. In a coffee break, we can all path, running new paths leading to a better future.
Of course, you are like a big key stakeholders in the coffee supply chain. So it's nice to talk to you to have a picture of what's happening in this moment. I start with you, Mariana, if you don't mind. Can you talk to us about Brazil's role as economic engine in this market, and also a good example, if it is, to other countries?
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me here, Lavazza Foundation, Mario especially. So Brazil has always been a very important player in the world, not only the biggest in volume, but also in technology.
Yes.
And so many other things that are happening right now in the moment. I think that it's very, very important to how we define this value in the coffee chain,
Yes.
how we see that. I think that it's not on we cannot just work on price and volume, but to spread that value on the coffee chain.
So it's not just about price, but to spread this value. Can you give me an example how to spread this value?
Yes, I think that we need to take care of the land, of the soil health, to have good relationships with our partners abroad. It's very, very important. We have many projects in the farm, for example, right now with many partners. We are doing so many things based on regenerative agriculture at the moment. So I think that having important partners and a very close relationship is the most important thing.
Do you agree, Osvaldo?
Of course. You know, when a group of persons do things together, they are done better. So yeah, of course, having good relationships along the supply chain is really useful for the producers, for everyone actually. So yeah, totally agree with it.
So working together is one of the... Also, when you were answering about the difficulties, the climate change, for example, also Venusia was underlined this, I think, as one of the main and biggest problems that we have in this moment. As a young producer, Osvaldo, who I think you studied here, right, in Italy?
I studied here in Italy.
Right,
yeah.
and then returned to Guatemala?
Exactly.
Okay. How do you see the role of your generation? Because also here, Venusia, last remark, was about the next generation.
Yeah.
How do you see this role?
Well, we have a huge responsibility.
Yes.
My generation don't want to be farmer anymore. So we have to create an incentive. We have to be the link between traditional production and innovation. So our role in this digital era with access of information, social media, etc., is to tell the story of coffee production, is to show to the final consumer the work that is behind every cup of coffee. And also, with digital tools, we have the possibility to create links, create relationships with other stakeholders of the supply chain. So that is one of...
So it starts from knowledge of what's the history of the coffee production, and to be also able to understand really the value
Exactly.
of... do you see this possible? Do you think young generations are interested in to listen to this?
Yeah, my generation, I believe, that is quite interested in sustainability. So, you know, there are smart ways to be sustainable, to start producing in a sustainable way, and to start creating impact with just a few changes. For example, in our farm, we used to wash coffee. And so, you basically pick the coffee, take out you peel it, ferment it, and wash it. With an eco dry mill, wet mill, sorry, you spend around 300 liters or 500 liters of water per bag. So when the, when I started this new strategy of not washing coffees, we started saving around 800,000 liters per harvest. So with just one small decision, you can create huge impact on the environment and start producing in a more sustainable way.
Thank you. This example works very well. Eduardo, um, a- sorry. Sorry, I missed one panelist, Marco Riccardo Rusconi, which is, by the way, very important, director of Italian Agency for Development Cooperation. I'm so sorry.
There's a way, there's a past, and a future.
Can I explain to you why?
There's a story.
I am short-sighted, and I just tried to read without my glasses, and I made a mistake. I'm so sorry.
No, but you don't have to be sorry because
I'm so sorry. But
the
my next
explanation is
question...
that no, because the development cooperation comes just to support the others.
Yes.
So this is why
Yes.
I enter the stage.
Yeah.
I mean, a little
And-
bit later than others. We support. I mean,
And thank you also to Eduardo, because very kindly he made me point to, But the next question would be to you. So, because AIC, the Italian Development Cooperation, of course, is sort of also changing route. Not only economic cooperation, but also trying to build development, right? I would like a little bit you to explain this.
yes, development, but more correctly, sustainable development, which means not only economic development, but also social development, taking into consideration the fabric of the producing countries where we work with which we work together. Mainly in Africa, but also in Latin America. In Cuba, we have a number of projects. I'm very happy to be here today at the Lavazza Foundation because we collaborate also with Lavazza Foundation. Before, I mean, it was mentioned how many smallholder farmers, which means families,
Yes.
millions of them are working in this field. So when we take every morning our cup of coffee, we have to think about those who have been working before, I mean, the cup and the coffee arrives at our table. In this case, we want to enhance the productivity for sure, but also the social sustainability of the production. There are means to do so. There are technological improvements that we can encourage. There are also new techniques that we can have introduced to, which are at the scope and at the size, at the availability of the cooperatives and the smallholder farmers. So we adjust our way of operating to the structure of the country. We do not impose a model. We just propose solutions that we think Italy can have, also thanks to the collaboration with a number of partners, I mean, private partners, NGOs, also international organizations such as the UNIDO. So we offer knowledge, competence of Italy, of our Sistema Italia, to accompany these countries on their path to development, to sustainable development.
And this kind of view, is it working in this moment?
It is. We started with a number of projects in Kenya and in Ethiopia. The point, which will be better explained also in a subsequent panel, we are now having a new scaling up what we have done so far. The model works. A number of African countries, for instance, have asked the intervention of Italy, the assistance of Italy, to go forward on their economic development, economic and social path. So it's working.
Okay. Eduardo, the market. Of course, you can read very often in the newspapers, the coffee price today, because also the market is very looked, of course. What about the role of traders in the right distribution of the value across the chain? What do you think about it?
Let me explain. When I try to hire young people who want to work in coffee trading, the first question I ask them, did you like the movie The Wolf of Wall Street? And they say, yeah, that's fantastic. Buying, selling all the time. I said, well, that's exactly what we don't do in coffee. So that they can set their mind to what.
And that works very well.
Basically, if you see the role of the coffee trader has evolved tremendously. And when I started at the same time as Mario. We were discussing 40 years ago. Coffee farming was very profitable. Even if you had a small farm, relatively small farm, you could bring up a family in relatively good conditions. With few bags of coffee, you could buy a truck. And when we started, prices were around 120, 130. And for many years, they've remained there. Inflation continued, but the coffee prices have not. So basically, profitability of the farmers has always been diminishing over the years. And people today, they say, oh, but coffee prices are too high, it's not possible, there's a lot of... but what I want to say is that clearly there are less coffee producers every day, as Osvaldo was saying. There's very few countries where the farmer can make a decent living. That is Brazil, that is Vietnam. And our role as a coffee trader, and that's what distinguished us from other coffee trade houses, is that we invested a lot of money in technical assistance to farmers to make sure farmers could be profitable.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So obviously it's a very difficult task. I always say, please show me one example of something that worked so that we can replicate. But today, a coffee trader, we are involved in technical assistance. We are developing new coffee varieties. In the case of Lavazza, we work together in sustainable projects in China, where we are testing new varieties. We are working on regen agriculture. We also have projects in Colombia, where we're working together on the empowerment of the women. So our job goes way beyond the proverbial buying and selling. It's not about buying cheap and selling expensive. It's actually the opposite. We have to buy expensive, in other words, give enough money to the farmer to be able to make a living, and sell cheap in the sense that the roaster has to find more value in the coffee that we supply to them. In other words, where they can grow their profitability with sustainability, traceability, etc.
Can I ask you something? Like you said before, we as traders differentiate ourselves from the others, right? But in a globalized world and very competitive, how is it possible to do some good actions as the one you described when others are just not doing this?
Well, the trends have caught up and others are doing it too, first of all. And number two, our customers, the roasters, appreciate these efforts and pay for them. They pay them in the premiums that they pay for good quality. The sustainable work starts. Number one, you improve the quality of the farmer. That generates a little bit more income for him. Number two, you certify him. You give him Rainforest Alliance, other certificates. That increases his income a little bit more. And number three, the most important, you show him how to produce more coffee per hectare. So that's a multiplier.
Yeah.
So those are the little steps of sustainability. And the last one is you can lend him money because he's profitable and he can grow. That one is the most difficult. But that's the ladder of sustainability.
Is the most difficult.
Well, yes, lending money is always a very difficult.
Nowadays.
Yes. Even at today's prices, it would make more sense, obviously,
Yes. Isabel, we were talking also during the first interview about diversifying incomes, right? What about the credit carbons, for example? Could be a way, a solution?
Yes. Indeed, could be a solution. I think maybe it's also important to understand why we do this as a bank. Rabobank, nowadays they're talking about lending money is difficult.
Exactly.
Yes. we can talk
Is it
about
difficult?
Is it for a day, I think. But I think it's important to understand, like, moving from lending money to carbon credits, why we do this as a bank, right? So Rabobank, it's a bank. It's an international bank in the Netherlands. We have our head office, but we also have like offices worldwide. Nowadays, it's financing most parties in the coffee value chain. For example, like Lavazza, like Ecom, a lot of traders, a lot of roasters. But Rabobank, when they started as a bank, or when they funded the bank 130 years ago, actually, before that, it was a cooperative. It was created by farmers, by smallholder farmers in the Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland. Well, we created cooperatives of smallholder farmers, and because that is the base of what is nowadays the bank, the Rabobank, when they funded the bank, there were like cooperative movements, like smallholder cooperative movements, Raiffeisen movement, and when they joined that to create a bank 130 years ago, we stayed with the same ambition to support farmers, whether they're smallholder farmers, bigger farmers, huge farmers, like in Brazil. We want to finance farmers worldwide. And I think because of that, because we see that coffee farmers are in a challenging position, we have a Rabobank Foundation, which is financing a lot of smallholder farmers, working capital, also other types of loans, which are important for smallholder farmers, because nobody wants to finance that, because it's complicated to finance that. And we do finance that through the whole value chain. With the program that Rabobank started about 6 years ago, that's the program Acorn, Warren Beested. We also want to make sure that smallholder farmers can benefit from the carbon market. So what we do is we support smallholder farmers in their transition to an agroforestry system, which means next to the coffee, they can also plant other trees. They decide whatever trees they would like to plant, but for example, fruit trees. Those fruit trees can generate additional income from the farmers, right? They can, besides having the coffee, they could also sell the fruits. But I think it's also important that we see that producing coffee in agroforestry system, it's important for the long-term sustainability of coffee. If companies like Ecom would like to source coffee for Lavazza, for example, in here 20, 30 years, we need to work on sustainable value chains now. That means we need the investment now. And it's often complicated for smallholder farmers to invest, so that is actually where we are supporting them to an agroforestry system when they can plant trees next to the coffee, which is also beneficial for the soil, which is also reducing their carbon emissions by producing coffee, but it's also good for the quality of the coffee. Well, you know way more about the quality of coffee than I do, but we see a lot of benefits. Next to producing coffee on that same plot, the farmer can also, by planting the trees, generate carbon removal units or carbon credits and sell those carbon credits in the voluntary carbon market, or they can sell those same credits to companies who are sourcing the coffee, like Lavazza. And I think Lavazza is a very great example of that they are selling the coffee, they're very committed to their projects with Lavazza Foundation, but also with the sourcing part, that they're sourcing the coffee, but they're also buying the carbon credits from those same farmers, and then can add to additional income to those smallholder farmers. So they can decide if they want to, for example, invest that in the further sustainability of planting trees on their farm, of renovating the coffee trees on their farm.
Yeah, very, very interesting, I have to say. So these carbon credits should be a solution. It could work because, for example, in the gas sector, sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't very well. But in this, I can see a project. I can see sort of a meaning. A second round, Mariana, why do some realities grow more than others? Why is that? Can you give me some reasons?
It's difficult to say, but because even in Brazil we have many different realities.
Exactly.
For example, in my region, in the Cerrado Mineiro region, people develops more. They are more like based on techniques, on irrigation, due to the flat land that we have and the water resources that we have there. So I think that it depends a lot on more on partnerships than on other things.
So, on partnership, do you mean like cohesion between actors?
Yes, yes. I mean, spreading all the value in all the coffee chain.
Spreading the value in the coffee chain. Osvaldo, you said before the importance about the young generation as yours, etc. Can I ask you, how are you reinterpreting your family traditions in order to be more appealing to the young people you are talking to?
Well, first of all, when you are young, you tend to believe that you know everything. But to be honest, I mean, when I started working hand in hand with my father, he had like 30 years of experience growing coffee. So instead of throwing away that experience, if you mix it with innovation and you do like small practices, you can get really interesting results. In Guatemala, for instance, 90% of the coffee is grown under shadow trees. So we are already doing something that is really sustainable, that is really good for saving water, for producing oxygen, and you only need to do like little practices on the farm to make it more sustainable and to create impact in the society. Um, for example, the Naturals project that I started, we started to have more interest in prices. So also we were helping the community by purchasing their coffee with a premium, for example. And nowadays, all the workers are started to plant coffee on their backyards. So I believe it's really beautiful because that mountain used to be completely deforested
Ah.
because it's in the middle of nowhere. There were like people chopping off the trees to plant corn, and then the soils got tired, and there was no corn anymore, not forest also, and 30 years ago we started the farm, right? We created a new ecosystem where we hold different species of fauna, flora, and adding value to the community, creating job opportunities. And now with this project that we're purchasing coffee from the workers, you can also see that the coffee region is growing in that mountain, which I believe is beautiful because you are, how can I say, it's gonna keep going,
Yeah.
through time. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. These, Marco, are beautiful examples, right? Because they underline the importance of also small steps that actually make something for the land you are in. As Italy Agency for Development Cooperation, are there any examples that you can tell us about it?
Yeah, there are many of them. I would like to highlight the way we work also, because there are interventions that we can do at local level, and also central level. For instance, if we take Ethiopia, there is an important authority, which is the Ethiopian Tea and Coffee Authority, which is a partner for us, And Italy, through development cooperation, has literally changed the face of the facility, the main facility and the headquarter of the authority, because now you can find and invite everyone to go there to Addis Ababa and to visit the headquarter of the authority, because the first floor is totally equipped with Italian technologies, Italian facilities, Italian machines. So this is really a referral point for producers and for different actors all around the country. But for sure, I mean, development is not centralized. Our philosophy is that development must be decentralized.
Yeah.
And plantations are everywhere, especially in very remote areas. So we intervene also locally. And a small facility equipped with a grinding machine or a roasting machine can make the difference in local communities where there is a lack of technology. We have inaugurated recently with a number of cooperatives in a region of Ethiopia. I was very happy to see that the majority of people in the hall were women, so women who lead, in fact, cooperatives. And we gave them new machines with also, for sure, training, because we do not work with machines, we work on people, basically, and on training of people and increasing human capital in these countries. So also in local levels, we can really improve, but in an interconnected way. And going also beyond the countries, because if we enhance a center in the country in Addis Ababa, it can become a center of reference also for other countries around.
Of course.
So also for Kenya, for instance, or Tanzania, or Uganda, other countries, other producing countries also encourage regional development, which is not an opposite way. So competitiveness is important, but also collaboration, cooperation. The two things can go together.
Yeah, which is like collaboration, cohesion, something that it's really emerging, right, in the first part of the morning. Isabel, talking about examples, there is another one with Lavazza in Colombia, right? Can you a little bit elaborate on this?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I think that's really what I really feel as a great collaboration between like the whole supply chain,
Yeah.
where we have been expanding as well. So Lavazza, well, they started already like 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, with a community in Meta, with technical assistance, with the Lavazza Foundation, meanwhile doing this important work on the ground together with their partner Cacafe, Volcafe, which is one of the bigger traders as well. They have been investing so much on the ground with the farmers, to supporting those farmers who didn't have coffee to grow coffee in agroforestry systems. So really preserving the nature while producing this coffee. So that's really a sustainable way of, well, the future of coffee. We talk about the future of coffee.
Of course.
Right? But that project, when it started, was about 100 farmers. Nowadays, they are thousands. And that 1,000 farmers, we're very happy that we could step into this work that already has been done for the last 10 years, because all of those 1,000 farmers have now also joined our project or in the process to join our program. So those farmers who are already planting in an agroforestry system, Lavazza is sourcing the coffee, but those farmers can now also benefit from the voluntary carbon market.
Of course.
As Lavazza is purchasing the carbon credits that come out of this project. So the farmers receive additional income from this project. They have coffee and they have a fixed value chain because they sell the coffee to Lavazza for many years already. And next to that, they can earn additional income from selling the carbon credits to Lavazza. So it goes on both sides, because with our program, every carbon credit that we sell, 80% of the value goes back to the smallholder farmer.
Yeah.
So here we really see this is a great collaboration. And yeah, I'm very excited that we could scale this up together.
Yeah, it's a nice example, these two. Eduardo, what about the trend of the traders for the next 10 years? How do you see it?
There's many trends. No, first of all, our customers, the roasters, are demanding every day more and more from us, which is very good. From working on their supply chains, working as well as being not only the banker of the farmer, but the banker of our final customers who require financing terms. So basically, I foresee, with all this volatility, I foresee a very big concentration. The biggest concentration will be at the trader level, because the amount of compliance that we have to go through, we have EUDR, among other things. Every day we have something new. The amount of financing that is required. And unfortunately, you need scale to be able to do that. So I foresee a concentration. And I foresee that every day our role with the farmers is going to be more important. As I say, there's few countries which are fully sustainable. We have to work on making more farmers profitable. We have to work on making them profitable so they stay on the farms. And today, you've seen all the waves of immigration happening. The number one reason is because they are looking for profitability. We were talking with Osvaldo. His family is from Italy.
Yeah.
They left Italy 3 generations ago to Guatemala. They didn't know where they were going. They were going because there was no sustainability in Italy, so they went to make the Americas. And today, it's the other way around. People are coming from Latin America or Africa. They're coming to our countries to seek for opportunity. But remember that 4 generations ago, it was the other way around. And we have to make sure we find a way for people to stay. And the only way that will happen is if they can have a family in very decent conditions.
Of course. Of course.
So
yes.
I think that is our role too. We're not the Red Cross, but if we want to keep on buying coffee in the future, we need to make sure that our suppliers are
paid
profitable.
the right amount.
Yeah. And with these prices, coffee prices are very high now. If today we cannot pay them enough for them to stay, then they'll never stay.
They never stay. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I agree. And to help people stay, it was also what Marco Riccardo was saying. I think is the most important thing to do in this moment, and I think every one of you does something in order to reach this point in a sort of a puzzle, because it's also important to work together, right? Okay, I thank you so much, because I think in this panel we had a lot of inspiration, so thank you all. Thank you, really. And I want to repeat the names. Mariana Lima Veloso, thank you. Osvaldo Zucchino, thank you. Eduardo Esteve, thank you. Isabel van Bemmelen, thank you. Marco Riccardo Rusconi, thank you. Please. You can come also down here. Thank you. Okay. Now we have another interview. So I move here. We have another very distinguished guest. We are really happy to have him here today. And he's very well known, so I'm sure you all know him. It's Jeffrey Sachs, economist and global leader in sustainable development. He's with us from the US. So, Mr. Sachs, can you hear me?
I hear you very well, and I'm delighted to be with you.
I don't know if you hear the applause.
That's very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You have a lot of fans here in Turin, so we hope to have you here, maybe next year.
Let's work on that. I am a huge fan of you guys, so let's try for that one.
Thank you so much. Okay, Professor Sachs, we have a lot of questions for you. First question is, there are only 5 years remaining until the 2030 UN agenda reaches its deadline, UN agenda on sustainable development. First of all, how can you assess the progress so far?
Well, the biggest progress is we have global goals, and almost all of the world remains united for these goals. That's a real accomplishment. I travel all over the world. I meet with the government leaders, and they, one by one, try to convey how ardently their countries are pursuing these sustainable development goals. And it's real. So this is a great accomplishment because we're in a very noisy, divided, distracted world, and yet we have shared goals. And I don't take that as a small matter. We see lots of progress in different areas. So generally, there is progress, not regress. But generally, there's not enough progress. That's the basic point. The world's distracted. I'm afraid that the United States basically dropped out of this effort. It's the only country I know that dropped out of the effort, my own country. It's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a long story, but we now have 192 of the 193 countries of the UN still in this challenge. But there's a lot of effort to kind of regroup, given that the United States, given that Donald Trump, given that the weirdness of the U.S. Situation is requiring a lot of rethinking. Because the U.S., it should be a central player in this, but it's not, unfortunately. So that's our current situation. We're not going to finish sustainable development by 2030. In fact, I have to say, in many ways, as I think everybody knows, we're going to hit some real drama, for example, on climate change in the coming decades. Because we already have an acceleration of the Earth's warming. Probably the Earth is not only warming, but it's warming at around twice the rate that it warmed between 1970 and 2010. Since then, the rate of warming has roughly doubled. It's more than 0.3 degrees Celsius every decade. We're already more than 1.5 degrees Celsius warmer than in the pre-industrial period. We already exceeded the target, or the limit, I should say, that we set in the Paris Agreement, and will almost surely overshoot 2 degrees Celsius. This means for coffee growers, a lot of headaches, a lot of problems. It means thermal stress, too high temperatures. It means water challenges everywhere. It means more storms. It is complicated. So we're going to be at this for a long time. 2030 was a deadline for meeting certain things which we will not achieve. But it doesn't mean, oh, let's do something else. That game's over. Rather, it means we better figure out how to be better, more organized, more systematic, move more quickly, make up for lost time, and accept the fact that, we're in a complicated world, and we're going to have a lot of cooperation across a lot of regions in the world in new ways.
So my second question was in reality about what are the real and concrete prospects for achieving these goals by 2030. But Professor, correct me if I'm wrong, from what you are saying, there is no real prospects for achieving it. Is it correct?
That's correct. We're late 2025. There still is a lot of poverty, a lot of conflict, a lot of deforestation continuing, a lot of accelerated global warming. I don't mean to be, a spoil sport or ruining the morning. Again, I want to say we also have better technologies, lower costs, smarter varieties, more robust science, accelerated deployment of zero carbon energy, a lot of good things happening, but not at the pace that gets us to where we wanted to be as of 2030. We're really talking about a quarter century ahead of change. That's okay, especially for young people in the room. This is what you're going to be doing for a while. It's not going to go away. It's going to be something that we really need to work on. And I was listening to the wonderful panel that you just had.
Yeah.
And there's one point that I would make for the coffee industry, because the coffee industry is doing so many smart things, and it's also it knows that it needs to help smallholders with new technologies, and it needs to implement solutions. I think the one thing that I would like to add to the discussion is that there are a lot of potential partners for Lavazza: local government, national government, African Development Bank, regional banks, the UN Economic Commission for Africa, and so on. And so I tend to see the issues not as what can the major coffee companies do for the local farmers, but what can a community of interest do that includes the coffee growing community, the local government, the national government, the major worldwide coffee companies, the leaders like Lavazza. How can you put together a kind of a package? Because what the coffee growers can do is help the farmers do better. But what I can do from the UN point of view, for example, is help to bring schools and clinics to the coffee growing area. And to do that, what I would like to say is, look, let's bring in some new schools and clinics, because look what the coffee roasters and the big brands are doing. They're putting money in here. So let's put in some public funding as well, so that we have a kind of package deal for the community. So I think if we get organized, what I'd like to do is basically multiply the contributions of the coffee companies by bringing in some other kinds of financing, so that it's kind of matching grants. The coffee industry says, here's what we're doing at scale. We're bringing in new varieties, we're bringing in new technologies, we're investing in local land management, we're helping the farmers in the following way, and we're doing that at this financial cost as an investment. And we would like the local government to build 10 schools in this area, and we would like the national government to make sure that the National Health Service adds 2 clinics because they're missing in this area. And we would like whichever are the local providers of digital access to make sure that the schools and the community centers are online. That's just an example. But the idea is view the coffee community in a holistic way and say, here are all the things this community needs. It needs better farming. It needs technology on the farm. That's really only Lavazza and your other competitors and partners can provide that, because governments don't know how to do that. But the governments know how to build schools, clinics, feeder roads. The telecoms know how to provide digital access. And so I'd like to take these communities in a holistic way and say, They have 17 sustainable development goals. They can't take a step forward without Lavazza because you've got the expertise to grow the coffee, which is the livelihood. But Lavazza's not in the business of building schools, clinics, roads. It is in the business of making the world's great coffee. And so I think a partnership is both complicated because it's not easy to make these partnerships.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think it's the answer that we really need.
Yeah, you've made the point clear. I think, and what I take from what you are saying, I think that I know because I studied all the things that Lavazza does in the world right before coming here, and so I saw that, for example, they do something very often with women. They do something for the literacy of the women in Vietnam. They work with the communities, entire communities in Guatemala. What you are saying is bring some other actors at the table, for example, institutions, for example, local institutions, in order to do also some other things, which is another idea, right? Producer can think about. Can I ask you if one positive thing you have already said? We have 3 minutes and a half left, which is technology. And I am also optimistic about technology. I think it could change a lot of things. So we must be optimistic. If not, we cannot change the world. My question to you is, what about the situation in this moment? You talk about local governments, about national governments, but it seems they are interested in a lot of different things except bringing global prosperity.
Well, let me say, I did a project recently in Latin America for Costa Rica, Colombia, and Brazilian coffee growing regions.
Yeah.
And we tried that holistic approach, and it was supported by the Latin American Development Fund, the CAF. Very successful. We launched it at the UN a couple of weeks ago. I'd like to do the same with the African Development Bank in Lavazza regions, so that we say, here are some coffee growing communities, there are tens of thousands of people in them. Let's do a mapping of what's needed, and let's bring in what's needed with the coffee companies, the large roasters or the large brands, with the technology, with the expertise, and we'll bring in the governments, we'll bring in the African Development Bank, we'll bring in the Islamic Development Bank, and we'll bring in other partners. Those other partners don't know anything about growing coffee, but they do like coffee, they know how to drink coffee, so they will be enthusiastic about this. But we need to make that partnership. When it comes to technology, I think one thing I would like to add, which is we need to be more open-minded. Because of the U.S. rather aggressive, nasty, and I think not very intelligent fight against China, because I see no reason for such a fight at all. The U.S. tries to keep major potential partners out, like Huawei, which I'm a big fan of, by the way. But you have a lot of large Chinese tech companies, especially in digital, that want to make contributions. You have the Chinese government that wants to make financial contributions. And the US says, no, don't do that. But this is a big mistake. And for Italy, it's a huge mistake to go down that road. So without getting too geopolitical, we need partnerships, we don't need antagonism, and we don't need the divisions.
As a correspondent in China for a very long time, I agree with you.
Great.
I think it's about persons and about projects and about common shared values. When we are talking about realities like in Latin America or people who really need contributions. So I agree with you. A very last question, because of course we have you here, and I think many people are curious about this. So we are extra time now, so
Oh, good.
I can ask
Okay,
you.
I'll be short.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Just really 1 minute and a half. Asking, are you worried about what's happening in the US, Professor Sachs? Because I am. I think about the Fed, the loss of independence. I'm really worried. What do you think, please?
Of course I'm worried. The government is attacking my university for no reason at all. We are in, to come back to China, we're in what China experienced from 1966
Yes.
to 1976,
Same
the
thing.
Cultural Revolution. We have a cultural revolution underway. That was not good for China, and it is not good for the United States. We're in a mess for the next 10 years. That's why I beg every day for Europe to get its act together, to stop thinking you have to please the United States. What you do have to do is work around the U.S. You don't have to antagonize the U.S., but you don't have to go running to the Oval Office to beg
Yes.
the United States for anything. Europe should stand up. It should be Europe. It's got great values. It's got great coffee. It's got great everything. But Europe should be Europe without trying to please Mr. Donald Trump right now, honestly, because there's no pleasing him. Be Europe. Work with China, work with Africa. The world loves Italy, by the way. Everybody
it's
loves
true.
Italy. So use that. Don't duck behind
As
the
a
United
leverage.
States, which is going to have a 10-year mess.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Professor Sachs, for being here, for your thoughts, and for this interview. Thank you so much, and I hope
Wonderful.
to see you soon. And
Great.
everybody here is saying thank you to you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Grazie. Paolo, please, can I see? I just had a quick view of your work. Maybe we can see him again? Because it was beautiful. It was a really nice conversation with him. I think he's really right in a lot of things, especially the last one. There are progresses, but not enough. Solutions for the communities. Yes, climate change, complicated word. Think there is all. But I will comment this at the end with another special guest. So don't make me do any spoilers. Okay, last panel before conclusions. We have talked a lot about cohesion, about collaboration. So the last panel, we explore all these things together. The session will open with a presentation of a scientific paper. The main point of this paper is just to talk about this. So we're going to listen from the Columbia Center of Sustainable Investment, focusing on a concrete approach to tackle these things. So let me call up here on the stage Lara Fornabaio, lead researcher, Columbia Center on Sustainable Investment.
There's a past and a future. There's a story about a land.
Josep Gari, Head of Climate, Forests, Land, UNDP.
In a beam, there's a community made of men and
Mario Cerutti, General Secretary, Lavazza Foundation.
the coffee.
Lot of fans. Lot of fans. Stefano Gatti, Director General for Development Cooperation of the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation.
Within the world that makes it thrive, and the people
Juan
that thrive.
Esteban Orduz,
The Coffeeprint.
Chairperson, World Coffee Producers Forum, founder and CEO Arqueterra Global.
Make all stories possible. And a shared prosperity.
Nice having you all here. Thank you so much. We start, Lara, with your presentation. So it works like this. Lara will do this presentation, and then we can discuss, okay? And you can be my challenger if you want. So please.
Should I click next?
Yeah, I think it works. If not, okay.
Okay, let's go back maybe. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so, well, hello everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. I rarely get the chance to present my work in Italy, let alone in Torino, which is my hometown. So I'm getting a little bit emotional.
Your hometown is Asti. Let's take
No, my
things
parents
clear.
recently moved. I was born here in Torino.
Ah, okay.
I can call it my hometown.
Okay, sorry. But I studied. Sorry. Okay.
So, well, also a little bit tough speaking after your own boss, especially if the boss is Jeffrey Sachs. But I'm glad that he provided actually all of us with a vision, and he also mentioned the project that we carried out together in Colombia, Costa Rica, and in Brazil. So I'm going to build on what Professor Sachs explained. And before getting into the nitty-gritty, I just want to say a few thank you to first Juan Esteban Orduz. He's here, and his support was great throughout the entire project. And so I really want to thank him, and also the team of economists at the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, with whom we collaborated. So I'm a lawyer, so I really needed the economists to cross the numbers, and so that's really important, bear it in mind. And finally, as Professor Sachs said, this work was possible thanks to the financial support of CAF, so the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean. Okay, so what we did, we developed a methodology for producing coffee SDG plans, or coffee Sustainable Development Goals plans. What we did is not a scientific study that is supposed to remain on a shelf. We don't want that. We actually want to make sure that it is implemented, and for that reason, it is very practical and very concrete, and can be, applied at the national or at the regional level. So the methodology is basically about developing strategies at the national or subnational level to close the SDG gaps. And the methodology is based on 3 steps you can see on the slide. We have the territorial diagnosis, the financing pathways, and finally, the investment roadmap. The territorial diagnosis means understanding what are the challenges they're up against. So it means going really on the ground, speaking with coffee communities and understanding what are the daily challenges. Do they have access to water? Do they have clinics? Do they have schools? What kind of challenges coffee production face in those contexts? And that's important to have a map of the SDGs and how far we are from achieving those SDGs. So that's the first step. The second step is where the economists come on board, and that's the financing pathways. It means understanding how much it costs to close those SDG gaps. So what the economists at SDSN did is they developed a model, which is a very simple bottom-up unit cost model. I can say it's simple because I used it myself. And this model doesn't require extensive knowledge in terms of statistics, in terms of economics. So even in contexts where there is limited capacity, it can be applied. And what the model does is that after you input a few numbers in it, it gives you the SDG financing gap. So basically it tells you a rough estimate of what you need in terms of investment, so how many resources you need to close the SDG gaps. And that's calculated as the difference between the optimal expenditure, so how much you would ideally pay for clinics, and what is actually currently used by the government. And finally, the investment roadmap, which is a little bit what Professor Sachs was explaining already. There was a little bit of a spoiler. So the investment roadmap is the investment strategy. So we now know at this stage of the methodology, we know what are the SDG challenges on the ground. We know how much it costs to overcome those SDG challenges. And now here we want to understand what are the investments that are needed on the ground. It is very important to distinguish first the high priority investment and the secondary priority investments. And the reason for it is because we have limited resources. And so it is important to understand what should be prioritized and what kind of investments can be pushed back a little. And then there are two other questions, which are the questions that Professor Sachs alluded to. So the first question is, what are the financing tools to achieve these goals? And the second question is, what actor is the most appropriate? So basically, who should pay for it? No matter the high priority or secondary priority investment, we have created categories that you can see on the slide, typologies of investments to support the organization, to support the mapping of what investments are needed. So the first category, the on-the-farm investments, are investments that are needed really for farmers to continue producing.
Yeah.
So it is about the R&D on the farm. It is about irrigation. It is about technical support. And then we go to the infrastructure, and that's about water and sanitation, or all-season roads that can be used even when it's a rainy season, because we need to bring the product to market, but we also need to bring kids to school and people to clinics. And finally, the social services, which is about schools, it's about clinics, but it's also about social protection systems. It's about pensions, for instance. It's about unemployment. And so what we created with this investment strategy is really trying to map all the investments and trying to say, this is the most appropriate financing tool, and this actor is the most appropriate for providing the resources. So now we know, as Professor Sachs said, but also as a great panel this morning said, we need collaboration. And so I want to conclude this presentation by saying the SDGs cannot be achieved if we're not all together here. And that's what I want to show with this slide. So the work that we did is scientific work, but it's also a call to action for everyone. And I stop here by saying, if you use the QR code, you're going to see the publication on our website.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lara. It was really interesting. Thank you. Davide, if we can, let's just leave this for a while so they can like photograph the QR code and access your publication. Thank you so much, Lara, for this. Josep, let's start from here, because Lara said collaboration, right? You run this Ecuador Deforestation-Free project, which is very cool, actually, and tackle one of the major problems we have seen, the climate crisis. How all these, as Professor Sachs, as Lara said, public institutions, private sector, corporate foundation, how, in a concrete way, they can work together?
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting the UN Development Programme to this important summit where we discuss these topics. And this happened just the year after Italy convened all the G7 leaders in Italy. And one of the conclusions was to use coffee as a model to connect the Paris Agreement, to connect climate action with the global economies. So in Ecuador, we have been testing and working on that approach. Maybe to start with a concrete example how we started. In Ecuador, there was a big program, Pro Amazonia. It's a program financed by international climate funds to protect the forests in Amazonia and to advance climate action. And one of the first meetings we had for this project, where we brought the stakeholders together to discuss what are the challenges of the forests, we had one farmer called Ivan Patiño, who came with 2 bags of coffee. And he said, this coffee I grow in my community, we are in the indigenous forest, it's a sustainable coffee, but I don't have any company that can buy it. What can we do? At that moment, we were discussing with the Italian corporation on a program, which is called Journey. It's a program that had already the first phase, in which we were looking how to connect climate action with the global economy. And at the same time, we were in discussions with Lavazza and with Ciala Partnership for piloting deforestation-free coffee. So we brought all these actors all together to work in Ecuador. And where we started getting the government to act together. We put together the ministers of agriculture, environment, and foreign trade together to have common regulations of what is sustainable farming and to set up a national traceability system. At the same time, using the technical cooperation of Italy, we helped farmers to start with digital tools to mark their plots and their forests. That connected to the national satellite system, because Ecuador, as every country, has a national satellite system to monitor land and forests because they need to report to the Climate Convention. So connecting the farmers, and here comes how the previous speakers talk about the importance for the young people to use technology, to connect the farmer-based digital application with national satellite so the government could certify deforestation-free production. And that was thanks to the cooperation of the Italy government. But then a company like Lavazza came and said, I'm going to purchase that coffee, I'm going to recognize the government system of certification, and I'm going to trade and brand this coffee as deforestation-free coffee. And this is what was presented last year. So this is why partners need to get together to build that. But there is more than that. Working with Lavazza, Lavazza has a very interesting program, which is called A Cup of Learning, which is about training baristas.
Yes.
And with this program, we connected, thanks to the Italian cooperation and the farmers we were supporting, to train local baristas, indigenous baristas. And one of those baristas that was trained was the son of Ivan Patiño, who is now a certified barista by Lavazza, which is world-class certification. This is adding value. This is adding value. The farmer is not just producing coffee. The farmer is curating the planet, is producing coffee, can also brew coffee. It's the change of the mindset which is going to allow us to connect the climate agenda with the economic agenda. We need to forget about the farmer as just a producer of coffee. The farmer is curating the planet, producing coffee, so when we have a cup of coffee, we don't only have a good taste, but we have the taste of the forest and the planet.
Yeah. Very, very interesting example. Thank you so much. Thank you. Mario, just let's build on this, because, of course, he was talking about collaboration. Also, Professor Sachs, right, invited us to be more collaborative. But actually, Lavazza in many places already is. I mean, is sort of sign of victory is collaboration within the local communities. So, can you say something about it?
Yeah, well, first of all, I will try to hire him as our testimonial for the Lavazza Foundation. but apart from that, yes. No, actually, one thing that I would like all of you to think about is that actually we are today, this morning, all together, we are the Goal 17. We are a plastic representation of Goal 17 because today here and that was the idea, the purpose, we have all, let's say, important actors of the coffee at large represented, starting from the growers, starting from our previous friends panel to all of us, etc. So this is, I think, already a very important step because only through putting together diversities, putting together different expertise, a different point of view, we can hope to build up something more.
Yeah.
And another point, if you allow me, this morning you started with apparently a simple question, which is probably one of the most difficult and important questions in the whole economic history, is what is value? No? Value is one of the most important, and I'm not going to talk about value with probably Jeff listening because, of course, this is a very, very difficult topic. But this is exactly the point. The point is really to, well, besides definition, to create value and then to distribute value.
Exactly.
So this is really the what we did with the foundation, and we're trying to also move a little bit because we have to adapt, is really to help the grower to create more value. And Vanusia was very nice in remembering to all of us the C4SEC, the Center for Economic Sustainability on Coffee, and a few other things, and Cup of Learning, etc., are all instruments to try to increase the productivity of the coffee, the quality of work, good agricultural practices, many other cases. But the concept is really to increase the value, which is okay. But the point is that I think that now, especially in a very odd situation where are we, that the prices are relatively high, it's a moment of important prices, and not everywhere we see enormously happy producer around the world. So, if we are serious people, we should say why, how is it, what should we do that we didn't, what should we do differently that we did in a different way to unlock this value and to distribute the value in a better way, in a more reasonable. This is the basis of everything, no?
Because also, I think Eduardo was saying this, at this price, with this price, if we don't do something with this price to distribute better everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
Absolutely.
kind of...
I keep saying as a joke that we are now in price level that maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, nobody would have dreamed, or nobody would have seriously say, okay, now we will be around 400 tomorrow morning. That would have been basically just a theoretical, today we are there. And what is important is that we don't see enormously positive effect in many countries. Of course, in other countries, yes, Brazil, Vietnam, that's great. But we need coffee to be used it's very important for everybody, starting from the consumer to the producer, that the coffee is distributed worldwide. It's an incredible, fantastic, positive way of distributing wealth, because it goes straight to the end the end of the start of any supply chain. But the number of people involved, Vanuzia was mentioning, the way the value of coffee distributed is very peculiar and very important for the country, for the region. So it's very interesting to try to work all together, because otherwise it's mission impossible, but to work all together to unlock the value, if necessary to increase the value, but then be sure that all the steps in the supply chain can make the best advantage. And so this is actually a very complex issue. We all know that it's very complex, but this is probably the challenge we have to take for ourselves. And I think that the study that Jeff was mentioning, that Lara was quickly showing us, and I think that we will continue to mention it, is really a very important, let's say, indication for the next actions, for the things that we have to do. But Eduardo was right. If at this level we cannot have a sustainable coffee production, we cannot have the people working in coffee, say, happy of their life because they can make an honest living, they can send their children to school, they can get health support if they need it, etc., then we really have to think about our future. So.
Stefano, about this multi-stakeholders approach, what can you tell us, concrete examples of what you do?
So, thank you very much. First of all, let me say that I'm happy to intervene after Jeffrey Sachs and his team, because for me it's easy to say that who is doing that? Italy is doing it. I mean, the government of Italy intends to do it. Now, nobody does anything alone. This is very clear. But you need, some key drivers and roles. And the role of government, I was thinking, looking at the presentation, this is a question of money. Who puts the money? And you always need a lot of money. But I think that the role of government is first and foremost creating these multi-stakeholder partnership. You need to have a convening power, you need to have a drive, you need to have political will. And this is what we have been working these last 2 years. And let me say, we have been working very closely with our Italian coffee sector, which Lavazza is obviously the biggest and most important company. And if today Italy is at the forefront of an international drive on coffee, as we are, very clearly, everything starts, I would like to recall it here, a lunch I had with Giuseppe Illi and Andrea Lavazza last year at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have a restaurant that I discovered that does not serve neither Illy nor Lavazza coffee, but that is obviously another issue that we discussed with them. But from there, what did we need? We need to have, first of all, the producer, the companies, that are doing this and telling us, what is it and how can we do it? And then we need civil society organizations and we need to engage with countries. So what we did is, starting last year, we started to travel all around Africa and the African producing countries. Giuseppe Lavazza sent Mario Ceruti, always hoping that he doesn't come back, but he does come back every time. And I have to say, Giuseppe Lavazza, that I also saved him one time, because when we go and meet with the governments, obviously being in front of the president of Uganda, that meets all the delegations, so very interesting conversation, and he says, I have a dream. I want to build a huge roasting facility in Kampala. So everybody's sort of looking at it, and then Mario Ceruti on the back says, can I say something? No, Mr. President, really, that is not what you have to do. So the Prime Minister of Uganda stopped looking at me like that, and we had an operation of rescuing Mario Ceruti from the presidential palace. That went well. He's still here, but it's very important, to go and discuss and engage. And today we have a major agreement with the government of Uganda, and going forward, and we're not building a huge roasting facility in Kampala. So I always mention him in the discussions with the Ugandan Prime Minister. But it's important to go and have all the different stakeholders engaging with countries. We have launched now major projects. We have engaged in a project with UNIDO in Africa. By the way, UNIDO is an international organization of the United Nations system. It was the Italian coffee sector that told us when we started to engage in this, there are people working from UNIDO several years on this. It's not something that we did know. So the exchange of knowledge and information is extremely important, the political will, and finding a kind of project that, both marries what is our economic system, where coffee obviously is extremely important, and the needs of developing countries. So that is also for us very important. And I remind you also last year, when we started all this conversation, the first time I discussed this with the highest level of the Prime Minister office and my ministry. So he said, listen, guys, I met also whether we have to have coffee strategy. So everybody said, coffee? What has coffee to do with development cooperation? So that obviously was the first question. Today, and I have to say that my colleagues change opinion and idea. Today, our Prime Minister meets the President of the European Commission, and they discuss about our coffee strategy being a flagship project of both the Mattei Plan and the Global Gateway initiative of the European Union. So we have to advocate, first of all. We have to convince, the highest political levels, and then you have resources and we have money. We have a major climate fund Italy has of 4.4 billion euros, and now we have taken 2 national plans. We have been working with UNIDO, with our coffee sector, with our civil society organization, but especially with the partner countries, and we are taking by December 2 big financing plans, one for the government of Ethiopia, 145 million euros, another one with Uganda, 130 million euros to our national climate fund.
Okay.
So we are engaged. We are engaged in a very important way, and as it has been said, we also put for the first time in the leaders G7 summit conclusions the word coffee. So when we did this, I received a call from the Prime Minister's office saying, are you sure you want our leaders to say coffee? And yes. And these are the reasons why, and they did, and now we have a very big drive on coffee.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. How did he end the Uganda thing, Mario?
Well,
what did you do?
We escorted him out. So the Italian delegation with the diplomatic immunity escorted out the presidential party. But I must say that the general that was sitting here, the president was looking not particularly happy, but
you want to say something?
No. I cannot say more.
Okay.
but Uganda for us is one of the most important coffee producing countries. And actually, they have a very ambitious program of increasing the coffee production. So in general, I would say that is really one country that, starting from a vision of the president, again, maybe it's a bit ambitious, but the vision is there, is important. They really are very clear that the coffee production and coffee in general can be a very, very important engine for development for the Uganda coffee. And that's why we are fully, first of all, just for you to know, we are probably the biggest buyer of Uganda coffee. So for us, it's important. It's an origin of coffee that
and
we
this is the reason why he came out.
That's thinking, okay, keep you alive for...
Came out alive.
No, but it's a very important, let's say, match of vision.
Yeah, very interesting. Juan Esteban, First of all, thanks to Carolina and Veronica, I have read one article of yours for El País. It was a really very good article. So if you want, I suppose you are here just to listen, more about coffee. You can digit on Google Juan Esteban Orduz and El País and geopolitics, and there is this wonderful article about geopolitics in coffee. I would like to start from here, because you talk about Brazil and Vietnam and how do you see them in the future, the rules of the European Union, China, which is tackling the markets partnership with with African countries. Some of them don't have tariffs at all for them. So it's really interesting. So can you just walk us through this?
Thank you, Mariangela. Let me start by going a little bit back in history, because people tend to forget that politics and global politics are so tied to coffee. Vanusha mentioned we have Vanusha, who is, I cannot see with the lights, but she's also a co-founder of the World Coffee Producers Forum in 2017, which was the one that had the initiative of working with Professor Sachs since then. I went on the scope. Professor Sachs has been working with us since 2017 in these matters, and so is Mario. So thank you, Mario. Lavazza Foundation has been fantastic with this. The ICO was founded, the whole discussion took place in 1962 in New York. Remember John F. Kennedy, the Alliance for Progress? That's what's happening there at the time. And they decided to create an organization. They would work in London, but it was created in New York to help farmers and spread, let's say, the what they call the benevolent empire, let's say, wealth to producing countries, mostly Latin America, which is so close to the US, and all things that we can imagine. Then the quota system that the International Coffee Agreement had disappeared in 1989. When? Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, Mikhail Gorbachev. The world changed completely to whatever is not the market doesn't work. So we need to move to something else. So that's on the score. And before getting to your point that you were saying, and I want to go into that slide, which is a terrible slide, about the next step. This is a horrible slide, but it's an old slide when Ted mentioned about the truck. This is a discussion, Teddy Esteve, we had about are farmers prospering or not? And if you put the slide again, just look at the numbers.
The one with the truck?
Yeah.
Ok, la slide che avete messo adesso e che avete tolto subito?
Yeah.
La potete rimettere, per favore, ok?
It's a terrible slide, but we did it in 2023 for the World Coffee Producers Forum in Kigali, in Rwanda. And I just said, okay, we had done it before, but we said, okay, how have you prospered as a farmer or not? So let's use not the dollar, not the euro, not any currency. Let's use coffee as a currency to see how people are doing. So we took the price of coffee when the average year when the coffee International Coffee Agreement was suspended with the coffee quota system, it was about 130. If we brought that with US inflation to 2023, coffee should be at 415, which is not. So we cannot flatter ourselves that much with the price. The issue is the volatility, but we're not really that good when it comes to price. If you put us in 2025, it should be 450 to 5. So we're not that good in terms of producers. That's one thing. If you look at what you can buy with using coffee as a currency, in 1982, you could buy the basic Jeep as a brand Jeep, because that's what farmers use in Colombia. Those of you who've been in the Zona Cafetera, you've seen the Jeepaos, the old Willys, that's the Jeeps. So the basic Jeep at the time for them was 8,200 pounds of coffee. In 2023, it was 17,000 something. So almost double, more than double. If you did it today with 380, you would have to have 8,602, which is even more than what you had to pay using coffee as a currency in 1982. So really, we're not prospering. Yeah. And that leads me to the next conversation. So we started to have this discussion with Professor Sachs. Okay, what do? We really need to stop talking about just living income, which is basically putting people 1 millimeter above poverty, and the first problem, they go back to poverty. Let's create structures where people can prosper really, where my kids are better than me and my grandkids are better than my kids. Yeah. Have an ascending life. And again, talking to Professor Sachs, since day one, we did the first study in the presented 2019 about coffee production sustainability. There was a sequel to that with the industry led by Lavazza. And then now we did this third study, which Lara presented. And she was a fantastic leader for this group, for this whole presentation and this whole study. What do we need to do for people to prosper? We as farmers, we complain. I mean, the producers, it's about the price. You don't pay me enough. And we had this conversation first, and I'm going to go back to 2017. Again, to history and politics a little bit, going to politics in a second. Again, trying to tell a Colombian to be short is not so easy. I'm Colombian, so. But no, the issue is, okay, how do we get people really to prosper? And in 2017, we had panels, and there was a guy named Chris von Sastro from Starbucks. And someone stood up and said, you are not paying us enough, you're squeezing us. And he said, no, you're not efficient. Same happened with the vice president of Walmart. People say, you are the retailers, you're killing us, the farmer said. And then we said, Professor Sachs, the next day breakfast, said, you know what, we need to study the issue of sustainable production and be able to say things that we as producers cannot say and the industry cannot say. Why? Because we're speaking with the liver, as we say in Colombia. We're not speaking with our head. So he did a fantastic job, which he concluded, among others, with a team at Colombia, that if small farmers are so small in so many countries, including Colombia, that they are not viable if not supported. They're just, a 1 hectare, 1.5 hectares farmer is just not viable, period. So if that don't get associated, if they don't get support, even subsidies, they will not be able to prosper. So what do we do about that? So next step was the sequel, and then we did, okay, we need to have this conversation with governments. I've been on the coffee association side, I've been on the government side, and the private sector side as well. And when you're the government, people come to you with questions and they never give you the answer. So the problem of coffee farmers and coffee production is much deeper than the price. Involves lots of things, including the so-called by Oxford University that supported CCSI, the CCSI-led work, is you're not poor just because you don't have cash. Because if you have a better price, but there's no school close to you, how are you going to educate your kids? Who is responsible for that? I mean, in which world is Colombian or Ugandan or Costa Rica farmers not having a pension the fault of Lavazza? It's not. So the whole thing about this work, and that's why Professor Sachs was so keen on that, and Lara, governments have to, in producing countries especially, have to play a key role here.
Governments.
And governments have to be, because there's so many public policies need to be addressed, and so many things that decisions need to be made to create a structure for people to prosper. And that, if you have a plan, if you have your priorities straight, if you understand what you have to do as a government, you will be able to come to Italy, and say, I need your help. I need cooperation. This is what I need to do. I need education. I need digital inclusion. I need financial inclusion. So all these things, this is what we're trying to achieve with this work. Mm-hmm. Like a handbook for farmers to sit down with government and say, okay, this is what all these geniuses think we should be doing.
Do you see this, because as far as you are telling us, this is already happening somewhat, involving local governments and governments in general in order to do this. Do you see this happening soon? The fact that you can build schools across other things?
What I hope is going to happen soon is that study, the work was done, the handbook, will be used by governments. Part of this was a mandate by the producers met in Kigali from Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Mm-hmm. They said, okay, you guys need to do this. Mm-hmm. When I'm the chairman of the World Coffee Producers Forum, there's no institution called the forum. Just a platform where we sit down and discuss, and we say, this is what we should be doing. So then we approach them and say, okay, why don't you help us do this? One of the first conditions, and I wanted to underscore that, is that this is public, for free for anyone to use. It's up there. QR code that Lara gave us, it's up there. You want to use it, you don't have to hire anyone. You need to hire me, you need to hire Lara, you need to hire Navanusia, nobody. You have to use it. You can use it if you want. Mm-hmm. But the idea, what we try to do, and back to politics, is if you come with this, when you're the government, think of a developing country. We're not Italy. And you come, the Producer Association come to you and say, okay, this is a handbook that CCSI, together with SDSM from the UN, with this whole team put together. It was funded by the Latin American Development Bank. This is what they think we could do. Why don't we start a conversation, producers and governments and the rest of the stakeholders, why don't we start a conversation and create an actual development plan for the community, for the coffee community, for the coffee production community, especially.
Okay. I have another question for all of you. I start again with you, Juan Esteban. Please be brief.
Yes, I will.
Because you have run your time, actually. My question is, you said it's not a problem of price and quantity. Also, Mariana said that before. So, if you would identify the main problem for local communities in this moment, which would be? And this is the question for all of you. Just very brief.
I would say two things. One, price is one part of the problem, but not the whole problem. The second thing is, for me, as coming from a producing country, is the lack of planning, the lack of priorities, the lack of organized planning, really, of the stakeholders led by the governments and the producer associations to bring prosperity to coffee communities. The lack of planning.
The lack of plan, which is interesting. Stefano?
Thank you very much. I would say that obviously there are all these things. You must know that only 3% of small farmers in Africa, in any sector, not only coffee, have access to finance, get any kind of possible finance, 3%. So essentially, in Africa, there's a lot of investment, a lot of financing, a lot of funds, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, we have open. But at the end of the day, this whole thing does not trickle down to the small farmers and to the small producers. That is really the challenge. And that is how we have devised the national plans with different countries. And yes, the local is very important. I deal less with the local, but at the end of the day, you must remember something. You can speak about regional, general. At the end of the day, you have a government of a country that tells you, this is my country. I have a government. This is my territory. Whatever you want to do, you have to deal with me and discuss with me and agree with me. Okay. And it's with them that we do the plans. It's to them that we provide the finance. We follow them. We work. But if governments do not sort of have the appropriate strategy and we do not support that strategy, nothing will be done.
Mario?
No, I think that in general, we are back to the creation of value and the correct distribution of value. So this is really one of the most important points. And I also would like briefly to comment what Eduardo was saying before. The part of the value, it really comes with the services, with additional services. So the fact that the world is asking for additional services, or even the grower is asking for additional service in very broad sense is very important, but it's very important to be able to supply those services. And so, for example, legislation is one of the things that we mentioned this morning. It's actually a request for additional services, maybe not done in the proper way, etc., etc. We can criticize as much as we want, but the key point is really that we should readjust a little bit the overall relationship in the value chain in a more fair way and transparent way.
Josep?
Yeah, finance is not the objective, and this is something that was mentioned. Very typically, everybody have a problem, and they think, well, if I have finance, I will solve it. Finance is just a means. The objective is to have the right policies. And the policies on coffee are not just on the coffee value chain, but it's also on the value around the coffee. And the coffee actually is a crop that emerged from forests. It's a crop that historically has deforested, but it's a crop, as we hear from Guatemala, that can live and grow with the forest through agroforestry systems, through many practices. So the idea is to have the adequate land and forest management practices and governance systems on which there is a number of financial instruments that come in, from climate finance provided incentives from the global international community and international system to the trading, to the carbon finance. It's this blending that will make the farmer a genuine economic actor that conserve the forest and produce value also to the consumers.
I also would like to have your take, Lara, in a moment. Juan Esteban, Professor Sachs talked also about China. Can you just briefly explain the role of China? I mean, which kind of producers China helps in this moment? Which producers doesn't help? And also regarding the partnerships she's building, what do you think about China in this moment in the coffee sector? I think it should be interesting for them.
I'm sure you want the 1 minute version.
No, also a couple of minutes, yeah.
No, just let me go back to the article that I wrote there, because of the increase of the tariffs to Brazil.
Yes.
There was this discussion in Colombia. Okay, this is the time for Colombia to increase its presence in the U.S. market. Not going to happen. We have the coffee that we have. There's no 5 million additional bags that will show up tomorrow in Colombia. And then I started to look, okay, what can Brazilians do? Because they said, okay, we're going to export more coffee to Brazil, so to China. The Chinese government said, we authorized 183 companies, I think, additional to export to China. How much coffee does China drink? They're not going to drink more coffee tomorrow because of that. But at the same time, they gave trade preferences to 53 countries in Africa in agricultural products. So what they are favoring is the relationship with Africa, not with Brazil. Regardless of if you politically, just to clash, or in the middle of a clash with the US, you say, because if you increase the tariffs to the Brazilians, we're going to give them, in paper, more access. In reality, the bigger access is for China, for Africa. Why is that? Among others, because all the technology minerals that they are working on that, the infrastructure, all the everything they are doing, they have a very heavy interest in Africa that goes beyond just coffee.
Yes,
so we need to really be aware of that. Exactly. What do you do?
Like minerals.
And what I said there is just two things in a summary, or three things is one, the US complicated the whole thing by increasing the tariff. Europeans complicated it as well with the UDR. It made it very complicated. They had to extend it. When they asked me a few years ago, I said, there's no chance that they will apply it on time because it's too difficult. And now, I think it depends on if the Parliament and the Commission agree on extending it again. It's in theory it's going to happen, but they have a war taking place at the door in Ukraine. They have to increase the defense spending. They have to appoint a lot of people to control. How are you going to control this coffee and cocoa and all those things without putting billions of euros? So is Europe capable to do it? Yes or no? Maybe what they will do is they will enact the legislation, but just don't do anything with it. Americans do it like all the time. The legislation is there, but nothing happens. Maybe that's a possibility. But all these things we have to play out, and they have nothing to do with coffee. That's my point with we really have to follow what's going on around the world to see, okay, why are some decisions made? Back to the Alliance for Progress and creation of the ICO, back to the US leaving the ICO in 1989. Again, Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, and Gorbachev. They're coming back in 2006, I think, or so. And they left again the ICO during the first Trump administration because they said, we don't want to be part of these multilateral things. Nothing to do with coffee, all political moves. So we need to follow those. And this time in the world that is so critical and so much happening so much. It's unbelievable. You have to follow everything to understand what's happening in coffee.
Yeah.
Can I say something about China?
Yes.
Because it seems very interesting. Of all the things that Jeffrey Sachs said, that I all agree with him, I really didn't agree about the part of China. So I like to, first of all, because I would just like to tell an anecdote. I go to Shanghai. My daughter works there in China, in Shanghai, in a technology company. And my daughter says, Daddy, come to this Italian coffee. Come with me. We go in the morning to the coffee. And then I see this drawer with a big thing, Valazza coffee. So I do a photo and I send it to Mario. Mario,
they still do it.
So in the whole shop, and that was an Italian. So I said to my daughter, "Are you sure this is an Italian coffee?" Yes, why not? I tell you why not. It's not an Italian coffee. So we really, I mean, there are so many things. Obviously, no doubt that there are nice and good people in China. It's not at a point. But what is exactly the system doing? What is the agenda, and how does it do? And with which rules? We need to really understand it very well. So, Valazza.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay, Lara, do you have any thoughts, any takes on what has been said?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with. Besides the China point, maybe we can discuss. I agree with many of the points that were raised. I think I would like to underscore climate change is real. The biodiversity crisis is real, and that's a big problem for coffee. And that's something that we cannot solve just with cooperation, which is very important. Well, we need really to get the science behind it. We need to develop the technologies, and we need the robust science really behind it. So I hope that's where the direction of travel for the future. And then I think, because I work on coffee, but I work broadly speaking on food system transformation and how do we bring about the transformation that we want to see. And I think something that is really lacking is the vision. What do we want? So what is the vision for coffee? We need a common vision. Somehow I think we all have ideas and we can all agree on a vision, but we need to make sure that we agree on something and we go with the finance, we go with the policy, we go with the regulations.
And the scientists.
And the scientists behind that all. We cannot do policy without the science, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Do you all wanted to add something? It's okay? You know what else I learned from your article? That I thought that in Spanish, tariffs was tarifas. Yo lo decía tarifas.
It's both tarifas or aranceles.
Aranceles. Es mucho mejor.
Yeah.
Ahora, tú tienes aranceles. And I was like thinking, is what, oranges? And it was tarifas. Okay.
Yes.
So, well, I learned something new. Thank you. Thank you, guys. It was really interesting talking to you. Thank you, Lara. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Posso fare un minuto di fuori onda per
Sì.
dire delle cose?
No?
Yeah,
Okay.
No, I just well, this is of course not part of the program, but before.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, no. Now everybody is getting a little bit worried.
Yes, I'm worried.
For different reasons. So maybe the only one that is a little bit more relaxed is Stefano, because we don't have a head of countries here. So at least on the diplomatic side, I just wanted to take this occasion to, well, first of all, to thank you that you ran us and accompanying us until this fantastic point.
Thank you.
This is really very important. But I also would like to thank my colleagues, starting from Carolina and Veronica, but also all the yes, eh? Oh yes, of course, Lorenzo, Annalisa, where is Stella? That's the newcomer, all our people, but also again, just to I think we had a very interesting conversation this morning. I hope it was interesting for all of you. It was very much for me. I took so many notes that together with the design of our
that we will have.
Yeah, that will be. By the way, all the material will be available in our website. The QR code as well. So I just wanted to thank all of you for traveling, for coming, and all the people that made this possible. Just for you to, down there that we don't see because it's all black, there are at least 10 people working for making this possible. And so it's important to thank all of them, starting from you to all of us. I also would like to make a bit of a special thanks to Giuseppe and Marco that are here, Lavazza, Marco, Giuseppe Lavazza, everybody should know already.
Okay.
We should not need to use the last name. And again, not because we are guests of the Lavazza Nuvola, but because they really were the real mind behind a lot of these things, because they are supporting year after year to really encourage us to do things. Let's do that, let's do that. So sometimes it's only important to have a couple of words to get the signal that this is a good direction or not, this is not a good direction. So I think it's important that all of us acknowledge as well their willingness to support this type of exercises of development, start from the foundation, of course. So that's...
And by the way, I know that thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. You, Mario, sort of made my job. I mean, you anticipated what I had to say at the end of the event, but it's okay.
No,
it's okay.
I apologize.
No, you are more important than me. Ubi maior, minor cessat. But I know there are some journalists here. I also have to say that I read in the newspaper that your group is the best employer of the year.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
This morning, but by chance.
Well,
I know they are not talking about themselves, so I would like to say it myself.
It's true, and yeah.
You want to say it here?
No.
Okay.
That's enough.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you very much.
Un numero uno vero. Allora, adesso, now we are commenting what we have done this morning, and with the work of Paolo. So, Paolo, I'm going to ask your help to see what you have done this morning. And I will comment everything with my last guest, Giuseppe Lavazza, Lavazza Group Chairman and Lavazza Foundation Board Member.
In the bin, there's a way, there's a past and a future. There's a story about a land.
Okay, so Giuseppe, we have said a lot of things this morning. I think the panels were great. We had a lot of thoughts, and also the interviews, actually, also Professor Sachs, Venusia, were great. So first, Paolo, if you can show us map of the day. Okay. Wow, it's so nice. Thank you. So cool. But guys, I don't see literally anything. So can I have like the first, Paolo? Or the first? Okay. So Giuseppe, let's comment on this word. Share our experience, key players, sustainability, partnerships, about my first interview and first panel.
First of all, thank you to all our guests, very distinguished guests, that accept our invitation to be here today, discuss a lot of very interesting topics, and especially trying to find a good way to proceed to a better future. Blending for better, as we say in Lavazza, is very important, and with your help, I think, we receive a lot of stimulus and insight to do our job better and better, and make this day so special. I really appreciate all the intervention, and just having a look at the first slide here. I think that a very good learning is that we needed to work hardly to try to avoid that coffee is so just like a commodity. And that is what we don't want for the future of coffee. Coffee is much more than a commodity. It's not just a question based on supply and demand. It's not just price. It's much more. We are here to try to add a lot of value to these beautiful products, to aggregate more value that could be viable to the future of all the coffee supply chain. And doing that, we, first of all, as roasters, we need to close the gap between consumer and producers. So to reveal, I can say, the beautiful backstage of the coffee production, showing the big effort of farmers around the world, their contribution to protect the land, the soil, the countryside, and all the efforts that the stakeholders are doing to really drive a lot of investment in technology, in engagement, in social infrastructure, in culture, in education, to promote a better development for all the categories. So, first of all, no commoditization. And this is only a mantra in Lavazza. We want to protect the value of what you're doing. And protect the value means, of course, to enlarge the chance of enjoying good cup of coffee more and more in the world. And we know that under this side, the outlook is very positive. You talk about 3 billion coffee cups nowadays as a daily consumption, but we foresee in 10 years that this number must be higher. It's about 9 billion of coffee cups, so 3 times more. This is because many coffee-producing countries are now discovering the pleasure of drinking a good cup of coffee. China is, of course, a good bet. But even in mature countries, we see a lot of chances to enlarge the footprint of the coffee consumption, thanks to the flexibility of coffee that's really allowed to even young generation to approach our product, to enjoy it, maybe in a different way compared to the way we used to do it. But of course, this is a good platform to be positive and optimistic about the future of the coffee. We continue to create a lot of opportunities for many people around the world along all the supply chain. So no commoditization, working together, of course, and try to build a very strong relationship along the supply chain, and helping farmers to be more productive, but of course more resilient, and to provide the quality of the coffee we need to be successful in the consuming markets.
It's interesting because you underlined climate change, of course, is the first part of the map that we see, and then commoditization versus value. That is what you said many times in your first comment. So let's see the second map. Unlocking opportunities, you said already about China, for example, but other markets too. Sustainability, development. Well, young people. There is another thing that came out a lot this morning. Would you like to say something about this, Giuseppe?
Yeah, of course. This is, of course, I think it's quite clear that coffee is not just a product, but is a way to address very important social, economical, and environmental issues. It's a global product. It's a global story. With coffee, we really can change the perspective of many people around the world. It's a way of creating better inclusion, especially in the coffee-producing countries. Engaging women, for example, as was said. That's very important. It's part of many projects the foundation is running in many countries. The inclusion of women is absolutely pivotal because they introduce element of stability and trustability, especially when it comes to microcredit.
Yeah.
When the women are involved, sorry for men, but when women are involved in the coffee business, they are a force in terms of resilience. And they're very good in managing financing. They're not exposed to some vices that sometimes are affecting men, as for example, buying quite expensive bikes or going to the bar. And so they're very looking after the financial of the family very, very well, and very good in planning as well. And then, of course, we have the chance of engaging more young people, so to give them the chance that coffee is not a destiny, but it's a choice. Especially introducing in the system elements of agriculture, of new level of agricultural techniques and knowledge, especially when we are talking about the digitalization of agriculture, using advanced tools to manage the farms, creating a little kind of engagement. We need for the future maybe less farmers and more digital engineers or engineers or agronomist or botanist to manage very well the farms.
Yeah.
So this means to have a different level of education,
Yes.
different level of engagement, and at the same time delivering more values throughout all the supply chain.
Okay, let's see the third one. And then the fourth, 2030 agenda, of course. This is Jeffrey Sachs' interview, right?
I think absolutely valuable intervention by Professor Sachs.
Yeah, it was.
I think that what we take from this is that we really need a real agenda for addressing such a big issue as the climate change. That we are affected by the climate change. We know we have to maybe live in a warmer world. All the planets is trying to, of course, working together to create a strong alliance to provide solution. But to provide solution, maybe we need more times. More times because we need innovations, we need a new technical solution to try to change the direction. And maybe the scheduling we hope to have, is not the right one. We need to have a real agenda in terms of what we can do. And we had also to know very well all the mechanisms that are under, of course, the structure, the productive structure, the economical structure, the social structure. When you undergo surgery, you need a doctor that knows very well your anatomy. That's the point. Otherwise, he or she can kill you. So the same for example, lawmakers. They need to know the anatomy. And for example, we have seen in different ways that some European regulations that now are trying to tackle, of course, this kind of problems are not very well designed because the people maybe are not so aware about the anatomy of our system. And we are here to help them. So it's also a claim for join the forces, to be considered as stakeholders of our coffee supply chain, not the problem, not the players that must be limited in the action to solve the problem, but part of the solution, a real part of the solution. We are the transforming force that can bring into the system the solutions. And without us, it's impossible to have socially acceptable solution. That's the point. So realistic agenda from one time in terms of timing, intervention that can save, of course, the social aspect of the transaction, and real initiative that are able to create an impact and, of course, to move all the system towards a better international standards in terms of climate resilience.
This is very interesting because also in Europe sometimes when I talk to industries, they tell me they give us like 2030, 2035, 2040, but without laying down projects. So I think, yes, you have to have a plan, an agenda, before to have like sort of a date, a deadline like this one. And he was very clear about it. I mean, we are not reaching any project by 2030, also Professor Sachs. Fourth, it is the last panel, of course. SDG-based coffee plans, multi-stakeholder system, I would have said that. It was very much underlined. The role of governments, we need to engage countries, companies, coffee producers, and Giuseppe, you already do that a lot also. I was mentioning to Professor Sachs the work you do with women, which is amazing. What about this? What are your thoughts on all these words?
I take out from this the great importance of working on a private and public partnership.
Yeah.
It's always a thing that we believed in from ever since. I mean, for us, partnership is crucial in design a good plan, and at the same time, the right project to create a better impact. So it could be a private-private partnership, of course, that we use this kind of approach in many of our projects inside the foundation, but the best model is the public-private partnership. And I'm very glad that Italian government has decided to step so heavily into the coffee business to be a champion, a role model country, and creating this strong partnership to try to have strong intervention in Africa, especially in 5 countries where you see coffee as a big hope for the future of many people that are there. And also to tackle a big global issues as, for example, immigration. We know is one of the big topic in the agenda of many European countries. But providing this kind of solution, I think we can create quite resilient communities in the countryside and to help people to make a living exactly looking at coffee as a real way of embracing a modern development based on all the elements we were talking about. I mean, sustainability, responsibility, and innovation, inclusion, and respect, I can say, and fairness for all the stakeholders. This is, I think, absolutely relevant. Private and public partnership to try to do that. And of course, I said that looking at the UDR regulation that we know is a pretty tricky regulation. It's trying maybe to create an impossible system to tracking the coffee from the small plot. We have heard about a wonderful project in Ecuador. So the government was the player who guaranteed to roasters and to the rest of the community the fact that the coffee is deforestation free. I mean, this is really the right way to go. We have to engage governments. What Europe didn't do during the design of the regulation, exactly this. They didn't talk to anybody. So that's the problem. How you can manage the future of people living in coffee countries without talking with their representative, the government, the international institution, the players. Why you didn't do it? Why? They forget to put into the regulation the instant coffee. Yeah, they did it. Said, what did you do? Why? Oh, we forget the code. You forget the code. You. So that's a bad doctor. I don't want to be, look after a doctor like that doesn't know anything. And so the point is very simple, but I think that we have to say, okay, guys, stop, okay, wrap up everything. Let's look very well how we have to organize and partnership. We need a partnership with partnering everywhere, even with the European institution. That's very important. When we start from this, I think we can design something very viable. And going to the goal, not just using, a claim, save the planet, maybe to destroy many other things. Because your real goal is not to save the planet, it's destroy other things. And this is very clear. So we have to take it out from the table, okay, to see it as a good man, good women, and try to work all together and to find a way to create something, a regulation if you want, that's great, we want it, okay, but that we can apply, and of course set with the help of our producing country, the farmers, the representative of the country, the governments, and to find a way to work very well. I mean, sometimes regulations are so bad as tariff, because they just increase cost. Yeah. They just increase complexity.
Of course.
They introduce in the market a lot of distortion. It's not good for anybody. The same. But we talk a lot about tariff. We don't talk enough about regulation. But the effort is the same. Even for public administration. Think about the Minister of Agriculture, for example, in Italy. They have to set up an incredible organization just to look after the UDR. They talk about 700 people. They have already 700 people that are looking at all the regulation, and they have to hire 700 people only for the UDR. For states as Italy, where we're a little bit in trouble also with state financing, it's a big problem. How you can understand that? So public and private partnership, it's very important not only for the projects, the way we go to the country, we help the country. Sometimes someone is providing fundings, some others has asked, for example, knowledge, know-how, how to do. And the government is helping to create the right framework to implement on things, but even the lawmakers. The lawmakers are very important. They can create the difference in one side, bad or good. We want the good. We don't want the bad.
Yeah, also talking to politicians while they are in Brussels, saying them which are the things that you can better off and the other ones that you cannot. So I take another word from what you were saying, Giuseppe, to be competent. To know what you are talking about. Also remembering your example about the doctor. You have to know what you are talking about before doing regulation, which is really important. Okay, thank you so much. You can see everything here now, but you will receive it. So every one of you will have this. I think it's also a nice way to remember today, because it was a very nice second edition. So thank you so much, Giuseppe Lavazza, for being with us. Grazie. Okay. So, you brave will have a light lunch at Centrale Lavazza. So Centrale Lavazza is downstairs, right? Okay. I would like to thank our director of today, Davide Juker. Davide, thank you so much. Everything was so great. Thank you. Also, all the guys, the audio guys, everyone, because also, you know, when everything works, better than Sky, I have to say. Kidding. The same. And then Paolo Masiero. Paolo, thank you. It was an amazing job you did. Thank you. I would like to thank, as also Mario kindly did, Lavazza Eventi, Acuson, and Lavazza Foundation team. Thank you so much. Thanks also to Carolina and Veronica, because of course I heard there is Stella, Lorenzo, and Annalisa. Okay, so thank you guys. But you were my front women. Thank you so much, because also with strict deadlines, it's a pleasure to work with someone with a smile. Thank you. You are so great. Thank you. You are really good professionals. Lavazza is very lucky. And for example, for you to know, you see all these graphs. Sorry, Paolo, there was another graphic here. The one who did this marvelous thing was one girl of the team of Carol, right? Yeah, and look at how great it is, how sweet. Yeah, homemade in Lavazza. These two, internally. Okay, so thank you so much. Enjoy your lunch and see you at the next edition. Bye.
In a view, there's a way, there's a past, and a future. There's a story about a land cherishing its treasures to make the seeds of tomorrow. In a beam, there's a community made of men and women who want to write their own stories and lead their own future. The coffee print of tomorrow. The coffee print of tomorrow. In a beam, there's a balance between taking and giving within the world that makes it thrive, and the people that thrive through it. In a coffee print, we can draw a path, run a new path leading to a better future. We can make more stories possible, and a shared prosperity achievable. Achievable. In a coffee print, we can draw a path, run a new path leading to a better future. we can make more stories possible, and a shared prosperity achievable, achievable. The coffee print of tomorrow. The coffee print of tomorrow. In a bin, there's a balance between taking and giving within the world that makes it thrive, and the people that thrive through it. In a coffee print, we can draw a path, writing new paths, leading to a better future. We can make more stories possible,